What's up, guys and gals? It's Griever back here, bringing you guys the Hunter's Guild Red Hood chapter number 4. And honestly, let's just jump right into this one because there's a few things we can already theorize about the direction this manga is going to take. I know a lot of people aren't too impressed with the last two chapters, or I should say this chapter and the previous chapter and stuff. And I think that's because of one of my theories. And the end of this chapter, chapter 4, sort of leads me to believe that I may or may not be correct about my personal theory, which is this is all prelude. This is all prologue. And we are going to actually, I hesitate to use the word time skip this early on, but I believe that that's sort of what we're seeing. And then we're going to jump into the future, or into our present day, which is what we're going to be following for the majority of this series. But let's not count our chickens quite yet. Let's just jump into the chapter because, of course, we still have Dodu. He's, apparently those little palm tree things are the werewolf's ears and stuff, and they go into this whole explanation stuff. I love Grimm's attitude here. I like that there's still some humor here. He talks about we get the explanation about how the werewolf's hearing is, so the regeneration once again is brought up, the type of gun that Grimm uses with the different type of bullets and all that fun jazz. Grimm looks incredibly bored, and she's the reason that a lot of people have continued to read, and I'm sure they're for purely innocent church-going reasons is why people love Grimm so much. But they basically showcase that the certain type of bullets, and they even bring it up. We get sort of a jump into the classroom sort of setting and stuff. And I sort of like the lightheartedness that this manga is sort of going with that. We're sort of like, all right, we're going to do an explanation, but we're going to have a bit of fun with it. They put the werewolf in the classroom and Grimm's the teacher doing the explanation and stuff. Just to change it up, right? Not everything needs to be all done in that same monologue format. So it's been done in manga before, but I always enjoy it when it happens. So usually that stuff is like for sidebar stuff at the end of a chapter, a little skit sort of idea. I like when it's actually implemented in this way, right? So I definitely like that part, but we learn that automatically everyone's going to think silver bullets, right? And what Grimm explains here is the way to negate a werewolf's regeneration abilities. The thing is it says, yes, silver does work and slow the regeneration quality of werewolves. We're not denying that. So I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool, but what did they do? And I was thinking something like maybe Underworld, like silver nitrate or something like that, because it said it can't really pierce a werewolf's hide. And I'm like, okay, so do you do silver, like trace bullets or like silver inside of a lead bullet? Like, what do you do? And they came up with something just a little more, I guess, original, and they called it wolfium. So wolf or wolfnium, I guess, is, I'm not really sure, but it's apparently a sort of a type of metal, the material that they use, which is just as hard or harder than lead, so it's able to pierce, but of course it takes a lot more, because it's heavier, it takes a lot more gunpowder, and so they need to develop their Chekhov series of big, giant, like shotgun level rifles, because they have quite a kick and stuff, and we learned that in the previous chapters and that kind of stuff. I just really enjoyed this explanation part, this part in the classroom sort of idea, because it kept me involved and gave me a lot of information, rather than just showing a bunch of like background panels of wars and werewolves and just gun manufacturing and stuff, or rather her just standing there explaining to the werewolf as she goes on and on. It's nice to see that we sort of break up the chapter a little bit with the explanation and the visuals that go along with it. So then an absolutely baller moment by the werewolf, by Dodu, that you gotta be kidding me, right? Because what he does basically is she's like, yes, we developed the Chekhov series, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And then he just reaches down as she pulls the gun out, reaches down, grabs it, and just bends the fuck out of it and just like grip. And it's like, oh. And Grimm's like, oh. It's like, yeah, okay. So, I mean, that all happened and yada, 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 but I actually thought that moment, it once again, just like the classroom scene, sort of broke it up. And I just really enjoyed that because I did not expect that. And it's like, yeah, while she's explaining all this and pulling out this big gun, just reach down and friggin', do the whole bend the gun up sort of idea. It's been done before, but I really enjoyed it here because I did not see it coming, and I actually did legitimately laugh. I was like, what? So definitely still entertained up to this point in the chapter. Now, of course, the werewolf Dodo continues to talk about how he's going to eat them, how he's going to make a soup out of one and a main entree out of the other and stuff. And all it did was make me want to, go watch some Food Wars. But then Grim pulls out another gun out of that case. So that case seems to be magical and stuff. Even Dodo seems to think so. It's like, what's up with that case? How many guns does she have in there? So, as we know from some of her other things, like, we don't know enough about the world yet. We don't know about these magical objects, this science. It seems to be half science, half magic, sort of like alchemy and Full Metal Alchemist sort of idea. Like, there's a combination between the two a little bit here. And this case seems to supply her an endless set of guns, I guess. We don't know yet. It's like, just like the axe. What's so special about the axe, and et cetera, et cetera. But then we find out, of course, Vilu's plan. Vilu has a plan here, and they decide to use the chimney, which of course they're on the rooftop, use the chimney with those gas shells. They emit, they're combustible, so he's like, okay, if we just let it build up in the chimney, we can make an impromptu cannon out of it and completely blow them away, because as Grim explains, saying you need a plan right now. It's like, these bullets, like, yeah, they're good, but he has a really strong hide. Dealing a mortal wound with the amount of bullets we have and stuff, that will be difficult. So we see the flashback scene, they come up with this impromptu cannon idea, which Vilu is the one who comes up with it, and it's all good. So then we get the big explosion and everything, and so, there goes Dodo. So there goes the two werewolves, the granny werewolf, etc., etc. So there's the werewolf. My big question is, and here's like when we're coming into the end of the chapter part, my big question is Grim had this idea to talk to Vilu about joining the Hunters Guild, right? But he had two issues with it. One of them being like, we can't leave the hamlet undefended. Now, I still don't know how this is going to prove, okay, so they leave and then tomorrow a new werewolf comes down. Or something else. By the looks of it, there's witches, warlocks, dragons, and everything else, right? And we'll probably end up meeting a dragon eventually, because that was the beginning of this series. But even though they said they're all extinct, I'm sure there's the last dragon alive or something, right? But either way, I just really enjoyed the dynamic of this chapter and leading into it, but I'm still curious onto how Grim is going to guarantee the safety of the hamlet just by killing off a few werewolves. As I said, next week after they leave and Vilu leaves, next week witches could attack, warlocks could attack, vampires could attack, right? Like, where's the guarantee? So I'm going to be curious to see how that goes. But as I said before, my theory now with the prelude, this being all prelude to the main story, is going to lead me to believe that we're not going to get the answer for that for quite a while. Or maybe Vilu makes a mistake, or et cetera, et cetera. We don't know. Either way, she puts a red hood. Doesn't seem to be her hood. She must have pulled this out of somewhere, because in a couple of shots, it seems like she's still wearing her red hood. But she put one clearly, I'm believing it's red, it's of course in black and white, on Vilu, and they talked about it and stuff. Said they didn't involve any blood or tears and all that stuff. So Vilu, of course, is very much thanks by the town people. The guy at the beginning of the first chapter who said, like, hey, you might have killed a deer and stuff, but you can't take down a werewolf, you can't do this, and they called him a kid, and he said, I thought you were just a kid, Vilu, but you're really grown up, you kept our hamlet safe, thank you so much. Everyone's just thankful of Vilu, everyone's safe, everyone survived, and this is all good. But then, out of nowhere, out of the rubble and stuff, come these, like, two giant, like, flaming cloud portal things, and apparently they call the place Kasoka Village, and it's like, wow, this is really out in the boonies. Like, man, this is like the super duper boonies sort of idea. We get the shot of this giant ass, like, reminds me of, like, this is sort of a classic looking werewolf, like a true werewolf sort of idea, standing on his two legs. He's wearing some sort of priest-like getup sort of idea, but he's got the head of a wolf, sort of reminding me of Sajin from I believe, which division was it? The 7th Division in Bleach, the captain of the 7th Division, Sajin. He, I believe it was the 7th, or is it the... Yeah, he's the leader of the 7th. Anyways, I haven't watched Bleach in a while, clearly, but definitely getting off that vibe. But the dude is massive. The dude is absolutely a monster. He's huge, and even Grim seems a little worried about this as the portals open and they come through. And what is this dude accompanied by but a witch? A witch looks like a young girl, maybe a teenager, 15, 16 sort of idea. But of course, it's witches. She could be hundreds of years old, hiding her true age. That's a classic manga thing. But why I believe why I believe that this chapter and these 4 chapters so far has been nothing but prologue and prelude is not only to introduce us to the world and the dangers of the world and the philosophy and how our main character got started, but because right here at the last page it says, I will never forget what happened that day. So many lives were lost and all I knew was reduced to ash. It was the day I became a hunter. So what I'm going to imagine here, because the witch even says, look at all the bumpkins staring up at us. I'm going to imagine that as Grimm seems to be not afraid, but wary of these two, wide-eyed and all that stuff, is that these two are clearly in a different league, in a different tier, in a different class. There wasn't really a whole lot of amount of lives lost yet, and all he knows was not reduced to ash yet. So I'm assuming whatever Grimm's plan for guaranteeing the Hamlet's safety went to shit, and these guys ended up, the Hamlet was destroyed, the village people were almost all killed, and Vilu became a hunter that day because, you know, he had nowhere else after the village is destroyed, most of the people die, and I'm assuming that these two, of course, are the catalyst or they're involved, etc., etc. Grimm probably manages to get Vilu out by the skin of their teeth. You know, but I believe that we will probably get a time skip. I don't want to call it a time skip because this is more like it's a prelude or a prologue to the rest of the main story. This was just before. Romance Dawn in One Piece there's not a time skip there. It's just the prelude to the main story and then what the main present day. So this one a little more extended, fleshed out a little more for us. Was it necessary? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see what chapter 5 brings us. But I'm intrigued by this. I'm sort of hoping for that. It would be kind of cool to see like 5 years later, and then Vilu's more like, I believe Vilu's only supposed to be like 10 or 11 or something here. So we'd get him at the classic shonen main protagonist age, at 16, 17, 18-year-old teenager, and then we would go from there, sort of idea. So that could be potentially pretty cool. I don't know, but what do you guys think of that idea? I think that would be a good pacing-wise. I think that would be really intriguing because then our character Vilu, who is our main character, will clearly know a lot more than he does right now, and some of the explanations will come in staggered portions rather than just keep dumping on us by Grimm every single time Vilu encounters something new, right? So either way, I just really thought that this was a great setup. All 4 chapters, I think it was properly paced. It didn't seem too quick. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what this witch's deal is. Who's this badass looking werewolf, priest looking guy who's massive? What's the deal with all them? Who knows? But what did you guys think of the chapter? Like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you are not all just reading this chapter for clearly very innocent, church-going, your eyes, of course, are very, very set on the character development and the art and everything else. And it's got absolutely nothing to do with Grimm and her body. Yeah, we all know that's full of shit, but either way, I pray that some of us are looking past the badonkadonks of this manga, which are substantial, but we can get into the really cool aspects that this is allowing us to enjoy. So either way, hope you guys enjoyed the chapter. Like, comment, and subscribe as always, and we will see you guys back here again for chapter 5 of the Hunter's Guild, The Red Hood. Thanks guys so much for watching. Peace out.